Today, as you can see over my shoulder, we have traveled to Brewton, Alabama. And well, it's not just for today because I have a true crime story that I'm going to tell from here tomorrow. But I came over early because in doing my research, preparing to make that video, I read that Brewton is like very, very active with paranormal activity. There's dozens and dozens of reports of paranormal activity that come just from this small town every year. And I thought that I would come and talk about it. Not only are we going to go to a cemetery today, but we're also going to ride over to a local creek. It's a notorious teenager hangout, and the majority of all reports of paranormal activity from this town of Brewton, Alabama, they come from that creek. And it just so happens that over 200 years ago, a horrific massacre took place on the banks of that creek. And since then, it has been known, or it's actually called, I mean, realistically on a map, it's called Murder Creek. It didn't get that name for no reason. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it today. It should be a lot of fun. Brewton, Alabama. It is a small south central town that sits just north of the Florida line in Alabama. There is a population here of a little over 5,000 people, and Brewton is known for being listed as one of the top 100 best small towns to live in America. There was a lot of Civil War activity that went on in the area, which is another thing that this town is known for. Altogether, as a state, the public school system is kind of down at the bottom of the list. We don't have a great public education in the state of Alabama. But for whatever reason, oh, the wind. But for whatever reason, Brewton, its public school system is like at the top of the list. They have a really good public school system here. Unless, or if you take away that one time where the band teacher at the local high school molested some of his children in a bondage, S&M type manner. Yes, that happened here, and it was very shocking and very rare for Brewton, Alabama. You can definitely see that this is an old town. Look at that Bank of Brewton, like facade there. That is really, really cool. 1889 to 1912 before it moved. Wow. But yeah, you can see the old architecture here. They do have well, this really cool. It's like an old theater. See Brewton there on the side of it. A couple movie posters up here for the original Cars and the Shawshank Redemption. Oh, the wind's blowing real strong right here. But the thing about this movie theater is it's actually not a movie theater. There's nothing there. It was once a movie theater. It was the Ritz, I believe. There's a placard right over here about it. It says the Ritz Theater opened its doors in 1936, and it operated for more than 50 years as the hub of the Brewton community. In 1996, after several years of being abandoned, the city no longer wanted to pay for it, so they tore it down, but they chose to leave the front entrance to the theater, the front facade to the theater. They chose to leave it, and they turned it into a community message board. As you can see, it has this screen here, which is obviously the frame rate's a little bit different than that of my camera. That's what the lines going through it are for. But so now this is all it does. It just sits here, and they can display messages or upcoming events, that kind of stuff, on the message board, and that's all it does. This just kind of neat. There's a really cool mural painted on the side of this building. After the Civil War, Brewton, it was known for its logging industry, and that's exactly what this mural is depicting. In my opinion, most of the paranormal activity that is spotted here, or that comes from Brewton, is because of all the Civil War activity that took place in this area. Now, Brewton, Alabama has had several iterations. It's had its name changed several times. Pre-Civil War, it was called Newport. Post-Civil War, it was called Alco, A-L-C-O. And then it changed its name to Brewton in 1945. The area played a big part in wartime because it is like on a supply route to Pensacola. So supply lines heading from and to Pensacola, they had to come right through here. One of those high traffic areas that I'm referring to is right here at Fort Crawford. Now, Fort Crawford was built during the Creek War, and it was built as a defense for the settlement of people that lived here. After the First Seminole War, it was no longer needed, and it was abandoned. For 45 years, it sat here abandoned. As you can see, it's blocked off. You can't get back there. It's the area is abandoned now. There's nothing left standing of the original fort. They just have like a little building where you could learn some of the history of Fort Crawford. But it is now sitting back there abandoned. Maybe one day we'll get back there. But when the Civil War came around, the ruins, the abandoned fort, the remnants of it were used as shelter during some of the Civil War battles. As I've said hundreds of times before, anything connected to the Civil War always seems to have an abundance of paranormal activity attached to it. Well, the site of Fort Crawford, which is right here, just so happens to be connected to a cemetery, which actually makes it even worse. For many, many years now, visitors to the area or loved ones who have a resident here at Fort Crawford Cemetery, they have reported seeing a man in a Civil War era or style uniform walking and wandering through the cemetery here. Dozens and dozens of times he has approached the guest and asked, "Have you seen his bayonet?" multiple other occasions, he has asked, "What are you doing here?" And then when he asks, whoever is nearby, that person looks up to respond to him, and he's gone. Many other people have claimed to have seen a little girl in a white dress. She's just playing and laughing as she runs around out here through the cemetery. There's never been a report of her communicating with anyone. They say that they just saw her playing and they couldn't explain it. They didn't know where her parents were. They saw her 1 minute, the next minute she was gone. They couldn't explain it at all. Oh, look at this. That's not cool at all. That's horrible. William J. Coleman. Sorry, Mr. Coleman. Somebody needs to fix that. Now, believe it or not, although this cemetery gets a lot of reported sightings of this man in Confederate uniform and this little girl in her white dress, but this isn't where the majority of the paranormal activity reports come from here in Brewton. The majority of all of the paranormal activity that gets reported here in Brewton comes from down here at this creek bed. This is Murder Creek. For many, many years now, people who live up and down Murder Creek, or maybe they work, or they could be just hanging out. There's plenty of places for RVs to plug up, for recreational activity. Anywhere people are near the creek, they report that the craziest, most scary stuff happens up and down this creek, and it's random. It's day or night. Doesn't happen every night. Happens here and there. It scares the crap out of them. A lot of them being scared about this comes from the fact that a lot of bodies get pulled out of this creek. This is a popular spot, I guess, for people to find dead bodies floating down Murder Creek. The majority of the bodies that they recover from the creek bed, typically there is no explanation. There's no apparent reason as to why they died or how they ended up floating down Murder Creek. On top of that, dozens and dozens and dozens of people who may be out in the water, or this is a popular teenage hangout, and a lot of them report it. But a lot of reports come in of people seeing a black cat that would be hanging from one of the trees. Almost like he was hung, with a noose around his neck and everything, like he was put there purposely. So they turn around or do whatever to try to get back to it, to help it down or to get it down, and it's gone. They can't find it anymore. They don't know where it went. There has also been a massive number of reports of glowing orbs coming from the creek here. They have been reported just floating on top of the water. They have been reported up into the wooded area across the way there. People say that they kind of resemble like how a headlight would look at night. It's just a round ball of light. But there's nowhere for cars to be on the other side of the bank there, not for a while. There's also been several reported sightings of a ghostly apparition walking across the water right here They say that it resembles a woman, and she's always floating. She's not walking in the water or swimming. She's floating up above it. 9 times out of 10, though, all the reports that come from Murder Creek are people hear screams in the middle of the night. Some have said it sounded like a super mad, angry growl kind of scream. And others have heard a super terrified, hair on the back of your neck stand up, blood curdling scream like someone is being killed. The Brewton Police Department has gotten so many of these calls about hearing screams in the middle of the night that typically there is always a unit driving up and down the areas of Murder Creek. So when those calls come in, they can hurry and race to the location to try to explain it. So far, they haven't been able to explain any of them. Now, many locals believe that Murder Creek is so haunted because of its past. Like I said, it's not called Murder Creek for no reason. And it is believed that those reasons are why it is so active. This creek gets its name, Murder Creek, from an incident that happened here in 1788. A group of English loyalists and a group of Hillbilly Indians met right here on the banks of the creek. Back then, though, it was called the Allachahatchee Creek, not Murder Creek. So they met right here on the banks of the Allachahatchee Creek. They each made camp on either side of the creek. So one group made camp here, the other group made camp on the other side. In the middle of the night, the group of Hillbilly Indians snuck across the creek and slaughtered the group of English loyalists. I mean, it was a massacre. Dozens and dozens of people slaughtered right here on the bank of Murder Creek. Well, it just so happened that the group of English loyalists actually had some pretty powerful friends in the military. When those powerful friends learned of this massacre, they created, I guess what we would call now a special forces team, like a SWAT team or something. They created a special team to hunt down this group of murderous Indians and bring them to justice. The group of special forces, as I'm calling them, caught up with the group of Indians right here, almost in the same spot where they had murdered those loyalists. They really hadn't left. And they slaughtered all of the Indians. So ultimately, 2 massacres took place right here on the creek, basically in the same exact spot. It was so bad that settlers from the area reported that the water here stayed stained red for many, many days afterward. So much blood was running down into it from all of the dead bodies here on the side of the creek. The locals seem to think that those tragic circumstances of having 2 massacres right here, that's why they think this creek is haunted. That's also why the name was changed to Murder Creek, because of all the murder that took place right here but they also believe that that's why there's so much active paranormal activity here on Murder Creek. Obviously, I do not know if these are just tales, if they're real. I know that the reports are real. People believe that they hear these screams or experience this stuff. But I don't know. That is going to do it for this story today. The haunting of Murder Creek, Fort Crawford, and taking a look around Brewton, Alabama. I will be here again tomorrow because we are going to be telling a true crime story. So make sure you have your notifications turned on for that. I want to thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys want to help support the channel, check out the links down in the description box below. It helps us keep making videos like this. Thank you all. I will see you again tomorrow. Please stay safe and stay healthy. Much love to you all.